Welcome to 15 Minutes of Feminism, part of our On the Issues with Michelle Goodwin at Ms. Magazine platform. As you know, we report, rebel, and we tell it just like it is. And on 15 Minutes of Feminism, we count the minutes in our own feminist terms. And we dive right in. And in this episode, we're continuing to unpack the Jeffrey Epstein files, or at least as much that we know, because there has seemingly been a gag order that's been placed on this. And there's more to discover. There are women who've come forward who want justice, and they deserve justice. These are women who claim that they were harmed and victimized by Jeffrey Epstein, who's now deceased, but who's left behind a legacy of trauma and harm. And the issue isn't over, because the issue has also ensnared high-level officials, and it continues to. ABC News just this week. Here's a headline: Wall Street Journal moves to dismiss Trump's $10 billion lawsuit over alleged letter in the Jeffrey Epstein birthday book. And I'm quoting from a headline there. And now here's a quote from ABC News. The Wall Street Journal and its parent companies, Dow Jones and News Corp, filed a motion in this week in September on Monday to dismiss President Donald Trump's $10 billion defamation lawsuit over the paper's July article reporting on an alleged letter from Trump that was included in a 50th birthday book for the late financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein in 2003. Washington Post headline from September 23rd. Statue of Trump and Epstein holding hands placed on the National Mall. The work is the latest installation in Washington by an anonymous group of artists critical of the president. And yet there is more. From NBC, a headline: Donald Trump calls the Epstein birthday letter a dead issue. Quote, the president has denied that he wrote the letter, which was part of a trove of documents the House Oversight Committee released recently. All of this and more has people shaking their heads, as members of Congress saying that they want to know more, and it has the people who have been victimized and harmed coming forward, alleging that they will release names themselves of people that harmed them as they were adjacent to Jeffrey Epstein. Joining me in this episode to unpack and continue a focus on these issues is George Conway. He is the president of the Society for the Rule of Law, an organization of conservative and libertarian lawyers devoted to the protection of constitutional governance in the United States. He is also the co-host of the Bulwark's popular podcast, George Conway Explains It All, with Sarah Longwell. Sit back and take a listen. George, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Very recently, I've had E. Jean Carroll on the podcast with Roberta Kaplan. So tell us a bit about this piece of information. E. Jean describes being at a party.
Yep.
And you two being in a conversation, and that you emailed her the next day. This is after she had come forward and said that Donald Trump had sexually assaulted, had raped her at that time. That's what she had said. Right. And so then you sent some information to her. What'd you say?
Yeah, I'll even back up. It's kind of a, I mean, that part of the story is like 5 minutes, but I can, there's a little context. Context is that when I first learned about the story, about her book, it came out one day, like on a Thursday afternoon. New York Magazine published an excerpt from Jean's book, and then the president denied ever having seen her, and I don't know this woman, and so on and so forth. I was moved by that to the following extent. I felt like some guilt that I had supported Donald Trump, and I had heard stories. Like there was a paralegal at our law firm in 1988 I haven't really told this story, but in 1988 or so, 1989, 90, 91, there was this very attractive paralegal at Wachtell Lipton. And during the negotiations for the refinancing of his debt, my firm represented the bank debt group. There were these extended meetings with the bankruptcy lawyers, and Donald Trump was there. And it was in our old offices at 299 Park Avenue. And the story came out that there was this very attractive corporate paralegal who had been assigned, the matter of what they do is they bring the documents out and they organize the documents for people to sign stuff, and they do all sorts of stuff. And apparently they couldn't get anything done because Donald Trump kept staring at this 20-something-year-old woman right out of college. And I remember thinking about that in 2017. And, I said, there's listening to all the allegations about him. And I kind of convinced myself, well, this is all old stuff. They had Bill Clinton. He's way beyond this, I hope. And I kind of the Democrats set it aside for Bill Clinton, okay, which they did. So I know that I briefed the Paula Jones case, and I just sort of let it pass, and I never felt right about that. And when E. Jean Carroll came out with her story, I was immediately moved to write an op-ed piece. I called up I emailed the then head of the editorial board of the Washington Post. And I said, hey, listen, I want to write something basically saying that if Republicans believed Juanita Broaddrick, who had accused Bill Clinton of sexually assaulting her, well, then they better believe E. Jean Carroll, because in some ways, her story has more going for it. I'm not saying either, I'm just saying there's more of the Me Too checks that you get there with people who are told about the incident at the time. And then, of course, the pattern evidence is just unbelievable. And so I wrote this op-ed, and it was basically brutal. It basically just said, here's Trump, who called out, Paula Jones and Juanita Broaddrick, and not Paula Jones, but Juanita Broaddrick and Kathleen Willey, and had this press conference during the 2016 campaign. And look at what's going on now. I mean, if you believe Juanita Broaddrick, you got to believe this woman. And it was a brutal, attack on Republican hypocrisy. And what happened was, a couple of weeks later, I'm at a party here in the East Side. Here I'm in Manhattan, and I run into Jean Carroll. And she was very, very grateful to me for having written that piece. And by then I had actually received contacts from other Trump victims, in particular Natasha Stoynoff. And I know I just chatted with her, and one of the things she said, within a minute or two we talked, she said that some people say I should be sued. I said, and she was kind of asking me what I thought of that without really asking. And I said, well, you would have a claim. And I basically said to her, look, you don't have a claim for the sexual assault, because that's statute of limitations would have run, although that changed. And it would be civil, but he said that you were lying. He said you're making that up. He said you were a nut job. And if this happened, that's defamation. And she thought, and I explained to her how that would work.
Mm-hmm.
And she seemed interested. And I said, I know someone you should talk to. If you want to talk to a lawyer, I know the perfect person you should talk to. And I had become friendly with Robbie Kaplan over the prior couple of years. And so the next day, again, this was a very short conversation. The next day, I either texted or I either called or texted or emailed Robbie and told her I met E. Jean Carroll. Would you be interested in meeting her? And she said yes. And then basically I put them both on an email, which now I want to get framed. I want it on my headstone.
Well, yeah, the rest with that is history, and with just finding out that
But it was her courage. I didn't give her any courage. I just told her, like, okay, this is an avenue
and
of
she's a
relief.
very courageous person. You're right. She went through so much. It was such a, I think we all three of us on that interview, it was moving. There was just a lot that was there that was unpacked in that interview about her experience at the time.
Mhm.
She described explicitly what happened to her in the department store and in that clothing room. And then the piece that you've talked about and how that affected her for so many years, the defamation, this the sense that someone is out there saying that you're lying when you have
Right.
experienced such incredible trauma, and what that means to experience that trauma and how it completely reorders the entirety of your life.
Absolutely.
She talked about not being able to have the romantic dinners that people have just because that really
Right.
shut down a part of her life for decades.
Yeah.
Decades not
No.
being able to go home and have the wine toast with someone and whatnot because of that.
It's fear. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it turns out that it doesn't end there, George. And you've been making some statements recently. So here's a recent post on Blue Sky, and we'll
Uh-oh.
talk about Epstein and we'll talk
I'm
about
being
Trump.
cross-examined on my prior inconsistent or
No,
consistent statements.
not cross-examined at all. I'm
I'm joking.
interested.
I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm a
I'm
lawyer.
interested in hearing it
Marking the
from you.
exhibit.
There we go. Exhibit one, exhibit two. I have too much fun with you. We've got to be
I
on
know. I know. I know.
NBC again. I mean, it's a lot of fun. Um, so here's
Swear
what
to
you
tell the
said.
truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
And exactly. That's right. Straight from Blue Sky. So you say it's really quite stunning that we have a president of the United States who could sue anyone calling him a
Yeah.
child molester for defamation, and it would be virtually inconceivable that he could raise a triable issue of fact that the defendant acted with actual malice under the New York Times v. Sullivan
Yeah.
standard.
Interesting.
And very interesting. So tell us about that. It seems that there's a lot that's packed in there. It seems that law
There is a
professors
lot
should
that's
be
packed in
listening.
there.
And
There's a little defamation law. There's a little
hmm
current events. I mean, look,
yeah,
you have a guy who was civilly adjudicated to be a sexual abuser, as Judge Kaplan said, in most states, by most people's lights, what he did would be considered rape. It's technically not rape under the New York penal law, but that's just because New York has a particular definition of what separates digital versus penile rape. So you've got that. You've got this long trail of people who have said that he has molested them, groped them, touched them, and in the case of
hasn't he also said that this is something that he does and caught
and
on a
he
hot
yes
mic?
he said right he said that I mean he said that on the Billy Bush tape he said that, and then now we have him writing this bizarre birthday card which he denies, even though it's his signature and it's obvious that he wrote it and there was nobody could have planted this there, and it matches his signature on a letter he sent me and other letters he sent to other people and Hillary Clinton. He's lying about that. And it's written with they have this weird relationship, he and Epstein. And then this picture that came out yesterday of a check, like, or where of Donald being purchasing or being a woman or something. It's just weird stuff.
Weird
And
stuff. Really weird
really,
stuff.
really, really weird
Weird,
stuff.
weird, weird,
Weird
weird.
stuff. And if you came to the conclusion, based upon his behavior over the past few weeks, that he was hiding something because he was that close to to Epstein, that he must have something to hide, that he must have done something. I don't think there's a court in the country that would not that could charge a jury, could allow a jury to decide the question of actual malice here, where actual malice, you have to show serious that the defendant who allegedly defamed the plaintiff entertains serious doubts, actually entertains serious doubts about the truth of the matter being talked about. And I don't know how you can prove that. I don't know how anybody could have serious doubts that it's true.
So
Okay,
let's
you may say I'm not sure whether it's true. Maybe they were 21 years old, or maybe this, maybe that. But you can't say that somebody looking at this objectively doesn't have a basis to make the accusation. So we have a president of the United States who could not sue for being alleged to be a child molester. It's really just think
No,
about that. It's absolutely
well,
incredible, and those are the points I was
well,
making
yeah.
with that.
So tell us about for those that have been away from news and podcast and TV news. What's this thing about this birthday card that's going around? What's the birthday card say or imply?
The birthday card. I mean, the text is so weird, but it basically says that it's a conversation between. It's a purported conversation, a mock conversation between Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump, saying, "Ooh, we like some of the same things, and have secrets, and there's an enigma." And on the background of it is drawn a naked female. And what's even worse about the drawing than
What's
everybody
worse?
expected is everybody expected to be this a curvaceous, buxom female, a mature female. And then it turns out this female looks like a girl. Okay, the
Mhm.
drawing is not of a buxom,
This
full-grown
is not
woman.
Marilyn Monroe.
No,
This
it's not
is not
Marilyn Monroe.
Marilyn
It's more.
Monroe and
It's just this. It's a thin. It's a thin woman, almost prepubescent. I mean, it's
mhm.
just really
Weird.
weird, and
Odd. Yeah.
it is so bizarre, beyond bizarre. I mean,
Sketchy.
sketchy, and it makes your skin crawl when you think too much about it. So I don't think this is going away for him. I think they've done everything here to make this worse for himself. He has in particular. And for some reason, it's funny because we've had all these accusations. I ran against him that I think were fairly well substantiated. I ran a political action committee last year during the election that basically put up 3 or 4 of the victims as doing videos telling what their stories, including a woman who he groped at the U.S. Open, which was just yesterday.
Right.
He groped in 1997 or 90. Actually, he groped 2 women, one in 97 at the U.S. Open and one in 98 in the U.S. Open at the U.S. Open.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
One is named Amy Doris, and the other one's name is Karen of Virginia. So he was like, I mean, it's just bizarre that he does this all, and he's there's so many incidents that you have to think that there are just hundreds of people who have stories that we haven't even heard from yet.
So clearly there's an effort, it seems, to suggest that there is no there there. There's been the use of the language of it's a hoax. There was a conviction. Uh, Jeffrey Epstein, it is said, committed suicide while being incarcerated. There are
Right.
many women who have come forward. So this idea that somehow that's a hoax when you've got convictions, including with Elaine Maxwell, is
Yeah.
well, just right that we
And
don't.
you've got Trump publicly saying nice things about Jeffrey Epstein over the years. You've got a handwritten note on a book that Trump gave to
What's
Epstein.
the handwritten note piece? So we've talked about the
A
birthday card,
handwritten
but
note.
what's
The
the
handwritten
note?
note
Yes.
says, "You're the greatest, Jeffrey." I mean, these guys were
No, it
friends.
doesn't say he's the greatest. Does it say he's the greatest? It says he's
No,
the
it says that there's something like "You're the best" or something.
the
You're
best.
a great.
Well, is it like if the best greatest is kind of like the same, right?
Yeah,
Best,
yeah, yeah.
greatest,
There
yeah.
was just they were buddies, and
He
then
says that isn't he trying to roll that back? Isn't he trying to act like, well, they really weren't buddies? But there are photos of
there are
them
photos of
together
them, where they're
and dancing, right? And
doing
looking
the
like
white
there's a
man's
party.
overbite, as they used to say on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, right. Yes. Right. And so now, well, why do you think that there is the his attempt to pull back? Maybe that seemed quite obvious, right? His sense to distance himself from Epstein. What's that all about?
Look, he's lying. I mean, he's trying to say he had nothing to do with the guy. The evidence is to the contrary. And what's really incredible about this is they promised to release these files. They were talking that, all the Trump campaign was talking about releasing these files. The right wing has been obsessed with these files.
So
And
what? So okay,
all of a sudden,
all of a sudden,
no,
no.
because
Okay,
they actually looked at the files. So
because they
what
looked
does
at the.
that tell you?
Okay, because it turns out they read. They can read, and so they
Yes,
finally
they
read
could
the
read.
file.
They read enough. They had hundreds of FBI agents, apparently, or dozens, I don't know, looking at this stuff for weeks.
Uh-huh.
And then they said, well, you're in here, Mr. President. And then all of a sudden,
All of a sudden, no.
no, can't produce it because we're all concerned about the victims, right? Because we know that's what they think, that's what they're concerned with. They're
Right,
concerned
right,
about
right,
everybody but themselves. They are concerned about the public
right.
interest. They're concerned
Bec-
about justice and due process of all the people who are named in the files, and the victims being rescarred, because we know that's how they think, because they're
well,
so
and meanwhile,
compassionate,
you've
because they're
got
so compassionate and moral and empathetic.
right, and we've got survivors who just recently had a
Right.
press conference saying release the files or that they will release what they have. So
Yeah.
have you seen these videos of the women who've come forward doing videos saying, I am not suicidal. Know that if I
I
die,
have not seen those yet. I
um,
need to go see those. I've heard about those.
yeah, I need to see more of them. I saw one. These
Yeah.
days you have to wonder if
It
is
is
this
it's like
real?
a fire hose of this stuff. You can't keep up with it.
You
I mean
can't. There's a whole
it's
lot.
crazy.
I mean, you're sharing stuff. I mean, and I just see that there's very recently that Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who's out of Texas, who sits on the House Oversight Committee, has suggested
Love
that
her.
there's a new photo that the Oversight Committee Democrats released very recently
Hmm.
that she, and I quote here, says is more incriminating than the birthday message. This may be the
Yeah.
photo that you were
I
talking about.
there was some drawing, additional drawing of,
Yes,
and it was,
but the face
uh,
redacted.
oh, I don't know what that one. The one
Well,
I
so
saw that was,
here's what
yeah,
she said, and I quote here. This is from when she was being interviewed on CNN by Caitlin Collins
last night. Yeah.
on the show called The Source, and she said, and I quote, "The photo appears to show a young woman whose face is redacted standing next to a grinning Trump, along with a Mar-a-Lago club member and Epstein." All holding an enlarged check made out for
Right.
$22,500 with
Right.
DJ Trump in the signature field. Yeah,
Yeah, and that's the one I was referring to.
that's
I
the
did see
one,
that.
right?
I didn't see that. I didn't. That, and that was the one they said something like basically a depreciated. They were referring to the girl as a depreciated asset of some sort.
No, no,
Yes, yes,
no,
that's what they
no.
were in the check or something. That was the whole
Oh
thing.
my
And then
gosh.
there's another one actually,
Hmm.
which I thought maybe that was the one you were talking about. There's another
It just gets
pair
creepier.
of drawings, which is very creepy, where you've got Epstein, like 2000 something. It has a fake date on it, and he's
Mm.
handing balloons out to little girls who are like prepubescent.
Are these
And
little
then,
girls and real life little girls?
no, this is a
Okay,
drawing.
they're
It's a
drawing.
sketch.
Okay, okay.
Okay, and then there's a sketch of him sunbathing years later with young buxom women rubbing suntan oil on him, presumably saying this is how he does this. I mean, basically, to me, it looks like it's depicting grooming, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Well,
and
I mean,
this is like, okay, this stuff was being passed around at a party, right? This is the
oh my
birthday book,
gosh,
and
this is the
so
birthday book.
they were all. I mean, this is what this is. They were
It's
all
creepy. It's
joking about
gross.
this. It was a joke.
It's
They
horrible.
viewed it as a joke. This
Oh,
grotesqueness,
well,
and
hmm
okay, and he was, and the president of the United States, the current president of the United States, was there. He knew it was there.
Well, there is, and I could spend so much time with you. We call this show 15 minutes of feminism. We also do say that we count the minutes in our own feminist terms. But we've heard,
That
right?
means you
I mean, I
you
love
can
that,
have a
right? Like, don't
reverse
you
New
love that
York
we
minute
count
and make sense. Yeah,
exactly, we count the minutes how we want, right? Uh
okay, good for you.
so it has been said that of the girls, women that were harmed by Jeffrey Epstein, that there were some that had previously worked at Mar-a-Lago's. Is that what do you know about that?
Well, I mean, what I recall from it is that the most famous victim, the late Virginia Gifford, was working the spa desk or at Mar-a-Lago.
There are some people who even wonder whether she really is late, like she really did die.
She committed suicide apparently.
Hmm.
That like a few years ago, in
Hmm.
her 40s. No,
Hmm.
and no doubt the trauma of everything that happened to her had a great deal to do with that. But um, and well, apparently she was working, like she was underage at that time. She was 16 or 17, I forget. And Ghislaine Maxwell got walked up to her at the parking lot or wherever the parking is for Mar-a-Lago and persuaded her to come and visit Epstein and see Epstein and be part of the Epstein cabal, and they molested her. And that's how she was roped into that. And then, of course, we had this incident a few weeks ago where Trump was told or was asked about this, and Trump said, "Yeah, it's one of the why we banned Epstein from our club. He was recruiting our people or stealing our people."
Hmm.
It's
Right. He
just,
was
it's
in
just.
the White House, wasn't he, when he said that?
I think he was on Air Force One
Was
when
he
he
on the
said
Air
that.
Force One?
It,
Okay.
it, it's just so weird. Like, why? It's just so weird. Because they had put out a different story about why the two fell out, which
Hmm.
was that Trump had heard something about Epstein being a creep. It
Hmm.
doesn't. It just doesn't all. None of it really makes a lot of sense. And,
So, George, as we wrap up, and we're going to have to talk again about this and many more, many
Mhm.
other things too, is what's motivated you to speak out about this? The tweets, the interviews. I know that you said that years ago, working at the firm, that there was a paralegal there, and now they're kind of resonating back to some
Yeah,
of
I
what you
mean, there's
reported
some.
back in the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, I'm speaking more generally, apart from
Right.
the sex
That's true.
assault issue. I mean, I just reached a stage in life where I can say whatever I want. Okay. And I'm really, it is, I don't know how you can keep quiet. That's the thing. And I began to see it happening in 2017, in 2018, in 2017. I turned down a job to be the head of the civil division in the Justice Department.
Hmm.
And I mean, I started seeing that with Trump, there is no bottom to the corruption, to the immorality, to the amorality, to the anti-legalism, the anti-constitutionalism. He was always going to get worse. And I came to fear that he might be reelected in 2020, and that's what led me to speak out the first time. And then, lo and behold, I mean, everybody forgot how bad he was, and here we are.
And here we are.
I mean, it's a
George,
much longer story than that.
it's well, we're
You
going
would
to unpack
require the
that.
longest feminist minute on the planet to try
There
my
we
entire
go.
story.
We're going to take that longest feminist minute, have you back over and over again, create a whole new
Yeah,
podcast just on this, the two of us talking
yeah.
about these issues.
Confessions
So
of George Conway.
we we always ask our guests before we, take off what they see as a silver lining, and I don't even know if that's the right question to ask as we wrap this up. What happens next? Maybe I'll ask that.
Yeah, I don't see any silver linings. I hate to say it. I mean, I do admire a lot of the work that people are doing. The people who are litigating these cases against the administration are just doing absolutely God's work, along with the United States district judges who are handling these cases, and some of the Court of Appeals judges, not so much up at the Supreme Court. I'm getting more and more puzzled at them. Um, and I don't, other than that, I don't see much that's good. I mean, hopefully there'll be some more protests. This No Kings event in October hopefully will be a big one. I know that maybe it sort of the protesting kind of went down during the summer, I guess, maybe because, hopefully maybe because of the heat. But I mean, people got to get back out there,
Mm-hmm.
and people really got to realize what's at stake here. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think a lot. I think too many people are just being spectators here.
Yeah.
And that scares me. That's the way things get worse. And things will get worse because he's getting worse. He's getting more
Mm-hmm.
desperate. He's getting, I mean, the Epstein files thing has him acting more defensively than ever. And so he's going to do more and more to change the subject to distract.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also more resentful and more vengeful than ever before.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think his mental state is going to improve. I think it's only going to get worse.
Well, you and I will join together in conversation for another round as we see how this all unfolds and what kind of madness it all descends
Yep.
into. George, thank you so much for joining me
Thank
for
you.
15 minutes of feminism as we count the minutes in our own feminist terms.
Okay.
Guests and listeners, that's it for today's episode. I want to thank you for tuning in, for joining me, and for being part of this critical and insightful conversation. To our listeners, I thank you for tuning in for the full story. We hope you will join us again for our next episode, where we will be reporting, rebelling, and telling it just like it is, as usual. It will be an episode you will not want to miss. And for more information on what we discussed today, head to msmagazine.com and be sure to subscribe. And if you believe, as we do, that women's voices matter, that equality for all persons cannot be delayed, and that rebuilding our nation, rebuilding America, and being unbought and unbossed and reclaiming our time are important, then be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to On the Issues with Michelle Goodwin and Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, and Stitcher. Tune in for 15 minutes of feminism and all of our podcasts on Ms. Studios. We are ad free and reader supported. Help us reach new listeners and bring the hard hitting content you've come to expect by rating, reviewing, and subscribing. Let us know what you think about our show. And please support independent feminist media. Look for us at msmagazine.com for new content and special episode updates. And if you want to reach us to recommend guests for our show, or topics that you want to hear about, then write to us at ontheissues@msmagazine.com. This has been your host, Michelle Goodwin, reporting, rebelling, and telling it just like it is. On the Issues with Michelle Goodwin is a Ms. Magazine and Ms. Studios production. Michelle Goodwin is the executive producer of Ms. Studios. Our producers for this episode are Roxy Zoll, Oliver Hogue, Mariah Lindsay, and Allison Whelan. The creative vision behind our work includes art and design by Brandy Phipps, editing by Natalie Holland, and music by Chris J. Lee. Our intern is Emerson Panagrahi.